2, 3.
Cause I'm a dig deep, I'm a stand tall. I got the grit of the underdog. I'm stronger than you think, I can do this on my own. There's a difference between loneliness and doing this alone.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Emma G. You are listening to the Capital Group Collective presents DC Music Rocks. Tonight, I am proud to present to you all a friend of mine who we've been sort of floating around each other over the last several years in various capacities, both as songwriters, as musicians, as leaders in various fields, because he doesn't just play music, he also does many things, which I'll get him to tell you all about very shortly. But all the way from, I think you're in DC, correct? Yes, you're in DC. All the way from the capital, DC. We have Dante Frisiello. How are you?
Hey, Emma. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Was that correct?
Yeah, close enough. Frisiello.
Okay. Frisiello, my bad. As somebody who has a very complicated last name myself, which is why I hyphenated, shortened it to G. I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. I've heard way worse, trust me.
I shan't even ask. That sounds like dangerous territory right now. Cool. So welcome. Tell me who you are. What's your jazz? You've got, you do a lot for the music community here in the DC metropolitan area. Tell me.
Sure. Well, I am a guitar player and a composer. I primarily compose for what's now become a sort of band identity, but it's essentially my solo project. And that is progressive rock, progressive metal inspired music, which is pretty much like an attempt at mixing jazz and metal and fusion kind of all into one melting pot. A lot of energy, a lot of riffs, that kind of thing. And then I also compose solo fingerstyle acoustic guitar stuff. And that's a totally different outlet. The progressive music takes years to make and has hundreds of tracks per song and edits and thousands of takes and a team of people and everything. And the acoustic stuff is the complete opposite. Just myself and an acoustic guitar hitting and slapping and stuff. And those are sort of my two primary projects. I've played with a couple local people. I played with Eli Lev for about a year, which is probably how we met.
I think it is, yes. At a show at a place that is now closed down, but
yeah, gosh. So I played with him for a year, and now I'm playing with Kat Janis, also based in DC, Virginia area, and that's rock, indie rock kind of stuff, a little bit of pop influence in the newer material. So yeah, that's what I've been doing these days, in terms of music. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm really fascinated by your multi-genred outlook, because, we both grew up in the scene where you had to be very specific about, like, I'm a rock artist or I'm a pop artist. And now, the last 5 years in particular, I think there's been a lot more cross-pollination between genres. So I'm curious how you managed to balance the metal and rock influences with the jazz influences, with the pop influences, and also how you managed to personify that in your imaging. Because a rock guitarist looks very different to the alternative options.
Sure. Well, for starters, I mean, I'm growing my hair out, right? So that
which I love, by the way. You look like it's not quarantine fit, it's not quarantine thick, it's quarantine long.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, Emma, I mean, for me, it all comes down to being myself. And I think everybody has creative voices and impulses and thoughts and feelings within them. And the only thing that stops us from manifesting them is the actions that we take.
Of course.
And for me, there's really just a couple really simple things that I love about music. When it comes to the multi-genre thing, that's just kind of what has to come out. Like, I'm an instrumentalist. So although I do and can sing, I don't have any goals to put any type of vocals that I'm doing on my material. There are vocals, choirs and stuff, but um, I think because I'm an instrumentalist, I'm kind of like fiercely committed to the sound of the music and the textures and the chords and harmony and stuff. Maybe more so than your average person, because I don't really listen to words that much. And even in songs that do have words, I don't really listen to them. And that's just who I am. It's not a conscious choice. It's just like what pulls at me the most is really great instrumentation. And, I listen to a lot of orchestral music and video game music. And that's what really kind of gets my juices flowing with music. So, making these two kind of very different projects that I'm making right now, it's kind of just a natural extension of who I am, because I can't help but like want to make it more interesting with rhythms and chords and stuff. And the progressive metal music that I do that's all about making pretty chords and pretty melodies and crazy rhythms and crazy drumming and just like insanity, because that's what makes it interesting. It's my first couple EPs that I did were, my learning process, and it's always a learning process, but those were the foundational pieces of learning how to even write a song. And so it was just purely, learning the basics. And once I got that stuff kind of down, I was able to start exploring more and try more interesting things. And I think at the heart of it is like, I just want to come up with the perfect note over the most, powerful sounding chord. And that's really the exercise. And yeah, I think that's universal to everyone in any kind of musical pursuit. And I like playing in different genres. I like doing things. I'd like to think that I could play in any band, not because I'm saying I'm so great, but because I would like, there's always.
I mean, you're pretty wonderful. Let's be real. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you for that for a minute.
Well, thank you for saying that. You're very sweet. But I think it's because I used to be very snobby about like instrumental music and fusion and stuff. And like, I only listened to prog and I only liked it. But I think playing in other people's bands, like I played in a funk hip hop band in college, playing in Eli's band while I was in law school, and now playing with Kat, it's been three very different styles. And, it's so much, I just had so much fun playing all these different gigs. And it makes me think, I would enjoy myself playing in any musical context. That's my goal. That's what I try to strive for. Because, being a snob is not fun. Like, music is music. If it's good, if it makes you feel stuff, it's good. And that's sort of that was a long-winded answer, but that's at the core of why I like, different genres and sounds and stuff.
No, I love that because, I think that's one of the reasons why your music resonates with so many people is because of that diverse appreciation and background. And I think, further to your point about listening to symphonic music and orchestral music and, metal and prog rock. And, I'm wondering, back in the day when I was a teenager, I used to date a guy who was obsessed with Pink Floyd. That was where I got my obsession from Pink Floyd, was from this relationship. And he used to always put on Pink Floyd because of, when he went to bed, because to him, it helped him go to sleep. Whereas I, similar to you, would get addicted to the intricate melodies of each instrument and how they flowed and wove together and things. I'm wondering, do you have specific artists that, have really fed into your, not just what you create, but how you approach different genres of music? Because, obviously I'm not a rock musician anymore like Pink Floyd. However, there's still that rock influence with you. You're doing pop stuff now, but prog rock is a very different sound to what Eli
Sure.
makes, for example.
Yeah, right.
Right. So, how do you juggle those influences, and what influences are there?
Well, I think when it comes to pop, that's probably mostly in Cat's music, and um, that I think finding the place of the electric guitar in that music is really fun because she sings like melody lines, and I'll double them, and kind of weave in and out of doubling melody lines versus playing solos, and a lot of this stuff is. Oh, I'm hearing an echo.
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. I heard myself echoed like crazy. So that stuff was already written and produced. We did a recording earlier this year that I kind of just did some light rhythm stuff and a little solo. Um, so yeah, I mean, when with that, it's they're mostly live. We're trying to do more live things right now, given the circumstances. And that's just all about adding energy to the music because she's a spark plug and has so much energy and is a great performer and writer. Um, and then when it comes to, again, I think with the music I make, you know, my biggest influences, and I'm thinking in as much as music and because your question is really about music and like composing, but also mentality.
Right.
And I think without a doubt, I can point to three very specific people: Rush, Steve Vai, Pat Metheny.
Oh, I
Those,
love all of that.
those are like if I had to describe what my progressive metal music is all about, it's like if Rush pulled in Steve Vai for a session and then Pat Metheny like sprinkled a bunch of sounds and orchestrations in it. But
That's beautiful.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to go for. I mean but that's sort of those artists in particular, they all do extremely different music. I mean, Rush and
Mm,
Steve Vai are both rock, Pat Metheny's jazz, contemporary, orchestral kind of stuff. But he just has this like magical happiness in his music that I'm obsessed with.
we should
Um,
all be striving for magical
we
happiness. Like,
should.
let's be
We
real.
should. That's what
Let's
it's
be
all about. Um, but when it comes to especially Rush and Steve Vai, those artists have spent a lot of time talking about their creative process, and they do tons of interviews and all kinds of stuff that you just feel like you can get to know them by spending a few hours with them on YouTube. And I've been
Mhm.
doing that for 15 years. And um, there's just a fierce dedication to their ideas, and there's an excitement and attachment to bringing their ideas and their visions to life. And I
For
think
sure.
a lot of any artist has that. Any person who has that and follows it is an artist, in my opinion. But there's really, I think, especially with those two artists, you see a very strong dedication to following their own feelings and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but because it's not, but it's just there's zero concern or regard for at all what is popular or what is going to sell or anything. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing because at the end of the day, if you want to do more of this, you have to make money by doing it. And music is a business. And the people who are the most successful financially do treat it like a business. And I treat it like a business. I take that very seriously.
Mm,
But when it comes to and that's the marketing and touring and performing and everything. But when it comes to the actual creation of the art, for what is essentially a passion project, if someone hired me to do something and they wanted it to sound like a certain commercial thing, I would do my best to give them that. But
mm,
when I'm creating for my own world, those artists, I try to follow in their footsteps, which is just an unrelenting vision and sticking to it and trying to bring it to life at all costs,
mm.
because it really is kind of a life or death thing. When you feel it strong enough, and you have the conviction that you feel like if you don't bring this to life, you're not serving your life's purpose. That's what drives me. And I've just been inspired endlessly by those guys in particular. And of course, their sounds hit me the hardest. The crazy rhythm shit, the crazy harmonies and shredding guitar that Vi does, and the beautiful, gorgeous stuff, and tons of Lydian everywhere, and tons of that. And then, Rush has these big splashy chords, and of course the drumming and the the three guys make it sound so big, and they have so much energy, and that's just what I'm all about, is that.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we're going to pause for a minute. Okay. Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the DC Music Rocks podcast presented by the Capital Groove Collective, elevating the sounds and voices of the DMV, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia, to the world stage, one conversation at a time. My name is Emma G. I am a singer-songwriter, author of My Life, My Songs, My Healing, and of course, the founder of the Capital Groove Collective, where I get the opportunity tonight to speak with none other than Dante Frisiello, which I am trying to pronounce correctly because respect is everything, and this man is worthy of respect.
You nailed it,
I tell
Emma
you. Yes, I love it. I love it. So we've talked a lot about your influences and where you've come from. I'm really curious about now that we're living in DC, especially over the last 18 months or so, things have moved very rapidly in this area when it comes to being a creative. So I'm curious to know what you've done personally to pivot your music in the age of coronavirus, especially given how supportive the DMV is of its artists. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. I guess I haven't really changed anything I do, because I think up until this point, what I've been doing is just really focusing on honing and mastering the craft of writing and producing, the music at the level I want to be. So right before the shutdown, my sort of, I guess you could say, previous iteration of my band did a gig at Jam and Java, opening for Tony McAlpine, who's a guitar player, brilliant. That was super fun. But in terms of my headspace shift, I think I've watched, even more so than normal, the online world, the Instagram world, the streaming world, and what people are doing to adapt. And I've just been giving a lot of thinking to what my strategy will be in the future. I do as much as I can within the realms of my job, which is super demanding.
Right.
But definitely, the biggest thing that came out of it for me, like, I was always planning on, making the progressive metal music and making it over the course of the last year, finalizing it. I've been writing the music for 2 years, but putting together the drums, bass, guitar, tracking it. But the acoustic fingerstyle stuff is a completely new venture that started right when coronavirus hit. And that was just a factor of, hey, I've always thought it would be fun to just play acoustic guitar, and now I know how to write music, so it would be probably really fun to just experiment. And I wrote a whole bunch of music, and it's eventually going to be an EP that I'm going to put out early this year. Every song is in a different tuning.
Wow.
And I also use this.
That's cool.
Use this amazing piece of technology called the Spider Capo. Have you heard of this thing?
Oh yes, they're brilliant.
It's so cool. I have 2 of them because
why
it's
not?
just amazing. It's just amazing because you can put 2 on and go even crazier.
That's awesome.
But yeah, obviously without live shows, it's just been a focus on making content and playing a show with Kat in a couple weeks at Jam and Java, which is socially distanced, stripped down, still being streamed online. So yeah, just trying to get out there and do what can be done at this time. But the focus for me is just on writing and putting together really, really, really great music, and then getting out there and playing it when the opportunities come.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. One of the things that, is interesting to me is that a lot of people around the world don't think of DC as a music hub. Now, you studied at Georgetown University, studied law. And normally, when people go and study law or study in DC, they then go elsewhere to have their careers and whatnot. But especially if they're musicians, right? A lot of people go to Nashville or LA or New York, but you've chosen to stay here. Can you
Mm,
tell me more about your decision and why,
sure.
why the DC music community has, served you so well?
Sure. Well, it's a couple things. One, I think I didn't want to go to New York or California.
Valid.
Um, Also, there are not a lot of musicians who go to law school. so, so, yeah, I think uh, my sort of decision to stay here was, I mean, primarily it was to follow the job that I was offered when I came out of school. Um, for better or worse, right? Going to law school is very expensive, so I have a lot of student debt. So there were potential opportunities for me in Florida, but I didn't feel like I was ready to move back there yet. And partially because the music scene is, I'm not going to say non-existent because it is there, but it's just not the same.
Mm,
Uh, there's definitely a lot more up here, and there are a lot of regional tours and things that come through DC and sort of swing through here that don't go down to Florida.
right.
So I felt like there's that. And then on top of that, I mean, there, the cool thing about this scene is that there are so many people that are working professional lives and also trying to do music. And I think that's a differentiator because people move to LA, people move to New York, and they Nashville, and they like just try to be a musician. And maybe, I mean, obviously people do jobs and stuff all the time, but people who are in DC are generally very like hard-edged East Coast type A career mindset kind of people. And
Right.
I don't know exactly how well I fit in with that crowd, but um, yeah, I think there are just, you meet a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm working in law or science or regulatory world or whatever it is, mostly law in DC, but um, everyone you meet here who is a musician, who is a player, they all have professional careers outside of it. And I think, um, again, for better or worse, say what you want about that choice. It's very difficult to have like an intense job and also try to do this um, as to the level that the person who goes to seek an intense career in the first place likes to do things. We're
Mm-hmm.
all in kind of people. So a lot of times it feels like you're doing 2 or 3 jobs at once. But yeah, I mean, that's the challenge. Everyone has to make a living somehow. And for me, with my law school debt, it was really a practical decision to try and alleviate as much of the debt as possible, while also keeping music alive. And financially, New York is really not a good decision because of the cost of living and taxes. And Florida, although cheaper, um, doesn't pay as much. And again, the music scene there it's a little more isolated. So that's why I ended up staying here, because it was sort of meeting the middle ground. And then of course, my third year of law school, and I made that decision, by the way, in my second year of law school,
Right.
before I even met Eli or started playing with him, which was my first introduction to the scene. And then I think once I started playing with him and getting out there and meeting a lot more people, I was like, yeah, this is actually a pretty cool scene. And there's a lot of people out there around this town that are trying to do it that also work really tough jobs. And I just felt like there was a nice common ground there. And I don't really want to live on the West Coast too much. So it
You
was
like
just,
you like having seasons.
I do. I mean, I miss Florida. I miss the endless sunshine of Florida.
Right.
But I think that for where I'm at in this stage, where I'm sort of just grinding it out in all aspects, I think this is a good place to be a grinder for sure.
Yeah.
Florida will be when I'm taking a little bit of pressure off and, hopefully able to, just focus more on music than other things,
Sure.
and just be in that sort of beautiful, nice, calm environment and doing more things over the internet. For right now, it's, I'm still building a lot of my chops. So like playing in a local band that does a lot of shows and being able to have my band open for these smaller like prog tours and middle-sized things that come through, that's a great opportunity. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. It's interesting because as you're talking about, a lot of the bands and musicians that having music almost be a side hustle. My experiences have been very different because I've been a full-time musician since I moved here. And Eli is similar as that, we've kind of made careers for ourselves as full-time creators, right? So how do you balance being a, almost full-time creative and, full-time lawyer?
You just go one day at a time.
Okay.
You just go one day at a time. Having a really nice therapist helps.
That definitely helps. Hashtag it's okay to ask for help. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've had a few great ones. Actually, the best one I had was in law school.
Wonderful.
When I think I would say I needed it the most, and I got the best, kind of spiritual guidance. Yeah, I mean, you have to make time for it. And the tough thing is that, doing it's sort of, there's no good way to do it, because if you work in like a really physically demanding like labor job, or as a waiter, or in a restaurant, like cooking or doing some of those kinds of very physically demanding jobs, you come home and you're tired as shit. And who wants to pick up your instrument when you're that physically drained? And at the same time, being a lawyer, for me, it's such a mental grind. You're looking at a computer thinking all day. And that's exhausting in its own way too. And so it doesn't matter what your job is, because I know I know a lot of people who do all different kinds of things. And I think the challenge is universally the same, which is finding the free time on your days off.
Mm-hmm.
Your days off are the gift to you. And they're hard, few and far between, but when you have them, you have to take advantage of them. You have to get up early. You have to just crush it. And when you have your days on your regular job, for me, my strategy is, once I'm done, to try and shut my mind off, hoping that I don't get more emails in the evening asking for more stuff, which happens a lot. But when it doesn't happen, it's just a product of, okay, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I want to sit down and like drink a beer and go to sleep and like play video games and stuff. But let's just pick the guitar up for 30 minutes. Let's just play for 30 minutes. Let's just say, you know what, Dante, you're going to have your beer, you're going to play your Super Smash Brothers, but like, give yourself 30 minutes. And then what happens is the 30 minutes disappears and it becomes 2 hours, and you go, oh, it's 11 o'clock. Shit, I got to go to bed. I just played all night. And that is a kind of a relatively newer strategy that I've been trying to implement to get stuff done. Because Newton's laws of physics are like everything. An object that is in motion tends to stay in motion. An object that is at rest tends to stay at rest. That applies to human beings as much as it does a ball rolling down a hill. So if you can get yourself out of the rest stage, like just get the ball moving, just say, just 10 minutes of guitar. I love it. It's my passion, but I'm so tired. I don't want to do it. Just 10 minutes, right? You just go for 10 minutes. And then once you're going, it's harder to stop and take that rest than it is to keep going. It's easier to just like, I'll just keep going. This is fun. Now I'm feeling it. It's just like going to the gym. It's just, it doesn't matter what it is. Like Newton's laws of motion, laws of physics, whatever. You got to get yourself in motion. Just show up. Just show up. That's half the battle. 3/4 of the battle.
Musicianship church with Dante Frisiello. I love this. Awesome. We're going to take a quick break now. And welcome back. You're listening to DC Music Rocks, presented by the Capital Groove Collective, an independent artist collective focused on elevating and highlighting the diversity of DMV, that's DC, Maryland, and Virginia artists, and the blossoming DMV music scene. Tonight, I've been talking with Dante Frisiello all the way from DC, about his life as a musician and lawyer here in the DMV metropolitan area. We've got one more round left and of questions, and I hope you're ready, Dante, because this is possibly the most random, off the cuff kind of round that you'll get from anyone, I hope,
I
that
love
ever
it.
interviews you, because, life is crazy and I like to implement that.
I love it.
So, are you ready, my friend?
I'm ready, Emma G.
Okay, here we go. Question one. What weird food combination do you really enjoy?
Sriracha and cheese.
Nice. What social stigma does society need to get over?
Money equals happiness.
Word. What food have you ever eaten but would really, sorry, never eaten but would really like to try?
I'm probably
Epic.
thinking
Come on,
too
come on,
long.
come on, come on, come on.
Scorpion.
Okay, that's my star sign. Please don't eat me. What's something you really resent paying for?
Student loans.
Word. They're expensive here. What would a world populated by clones of you be like?
Really loud and energetic.
Do you think that aliens exist?
Without a doubt, yes.
What are you currently worried about?
Oh, God.
Where do I start? He says.
Yeah. Democracy.
Valid, valid. Where are some unusual places you've been?
Macon, Georgia.
Fair. Where do you get your news?
I don't.
Okay.
My friends. I would say my friends who care.
Right from the mouth of a lawyer, guys. What are some red flags to watch out for in daily life?
Okay. Doing things that you don't enjoy. Not getting enough sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Not making enough of your own food.
Nice, nice. I like that answer. What movie can you watch over and over again without ever getting tired of it?
Top Gun.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Oh my God, you have to watch it.
I'm terrible. When you are old, what do you think children will ask you to tell stories about?
2020.
I was waiting for that. If you could switch two movie characters, what switch would lead to the most inappropriate movies?
Maverick and Ariel from The Little Mermaid.
Dude. Okay. What inanimate object would be the most annoying if it played loud, upbeat music while being used?
A pillow.
When did something start out badly for you, but in the end it was great?
Going to law school.
How would your country change if anyone, regardless of age, could vote?
This country,
I should say regardless of age or socioeconomic status or color.
I would say it probably wouldn't change much.
Okay. What animal would be the cutest if scaled down to the size of a cat?
A bald eagle.
What's wrong that sounds right?
Money equals happiness.
And what's the most epic way you've seen someone quit or be fired?
Oh gosh. Lawyers are so boring and risk averse. I've never seen anything particularly interesting. Literally the worst I've seen is someone quitting without having another job lined up. That's how risk averse we are.
I love that. And last question is, how do we follow you on social media and keep up to date with what you're doing?
Oh, great question. I post a lot on Instagram, and that's just at Dante Frisiello, DanteFrisiello, or at Enormous Jerk. That's my. Just kidding.
I was like, what?
No,
I followed that account.
at Dante Frisiello on Instagram, Twitter, same thing. I don't really tweet much, but I have it. Facebook, Dante Frisiello Music. Keep on the lookout because my progressive metal band is being launched in the upcoming few months. And I'm not going to tell anyone the name, but I'll just say Fifth, FIF. Keep your eyes out for Fifth.
Okay.
And when
I
that
love
comes
it.
out, that's what it's going to be all about. So keep an eye out on that hashtag.
I dig it. I dig it very much. Awesome. And before we take off, I want to give you an opportunity to flaunt one of your songs. What song are you playing for us tonight?
Am I going to physically play? Do you want me to?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say I'm so not ready. Why don't you do the Wellspring from my last album?
Awesome. So this is the Wellspring from Dante Frisiello. Thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast tonight. My name is Emma G, of course, the founder of Capital Group Collective, as we take over the DC Music Rocks podcast, presented to showcase the independent artists that are elevating and glowing and prospering throughout the DMV music scene. From us to you, have a great night, be good, be safe, and don't forget to turn it up to 11.